trying not to be patronising. But my point is this, that I think you deserve, as a Christian, to be told the truth about the Bible, that your own pastors and preachers know from the Richard Balcombs and the Tom Wrights, the leading biblical scholars of the world, they do not pass this on, and that is a scandal in my view.
Okay, even that view that these words are made up and not put in, and they didn't actually come out of the mouth of Jesus,
yes.
I still expect there's a spectrum amongst scholars, exactly what is true with respect to that point.
I'm quoting the most conservative Christian scholars that he recommends, and they say it too. I'm not quoting liberals.
They say there's a creative element.
There's a spectrum within that belief. My point was there's a spectrum within that belief. And which point on that spectrum are they meant to teach?
They teach any of it, but they don't teach any of it. They don't attempt. Well, I take a point about sermons perhaps not being the right place, but at least perhaps a minister could say, right, I'm going to hold a Bible class on a Wednesday evening to teach the truth to teach you what our own biblical scholars are saying about the Bible the last 100 years. What are the scholars saying about the Gospel of John? Is John's Jesus historical? Is he actually saying what the historical
but
Jesus
as long as
said?
there are some scholars who are saying as long as there are some scholars who are saying it is historical, then presumably pastors might choose to prefer those ones and go with that narrative. So
you name me one who does.
So I'm trying. It's a while since I've read it, but a lot of work has been done on the historical reliability of John by, I think it's either Craig Blomberg or another kind of quite well-known, respected evangelical scholar. Basically, acknowledging there are kind of prima facie some differences between them, but trying to account for that in many different ways. So I presume pastors might have read those works.
I have, yes.
I presume pastors might have read those works and found them convincing.
I think the problem with Craig Blomberg is, if people don't know who he is, Craig Blomberg is a New Testament scholar in the United States who teaches New Testament studies at Denver Seminary. To be on the faculty of Denver Seminary in the United States, you can go on the website, Google it, Denver Seminary. They have to swear and sign a document every year that they will teach about the Bible. That is the holy, literal truth, historical, factual truth of God. And if they don't sign that, they don't get a job. They lose their tenure. So even though Craig Blomberg is actually a real scholar, and I have some of his books on John, and I respect him, he is constrained within a very narrow theological parameter that he must say at the end of the day that John is factual, John is true, John, because if he doesn't, he will lose his job. And that is one hell of a motivation for someone to say his scholarship, unfortunately, in my view, operates within those parameters. And if you had a gun to your head saying you had a mortgage and kids, unless you say the right thing about the Bible, you will lose your job. What are the chances of you doing the
Well,
right
I mean,
thing?
it depends how much personal integrity we think that Craig Blomberg has. I'll leave that to Craig Blomberg.
But this is a really important point. So it's coming back to him. What he does is, his methodology is what I call maximally conservative. So he'll look at all the critical options about the historicity of the saying of Jesus in John. He will look at all the options available, and then he will choose, infallibly, always, without exception, the most conservative view available. And then he will incorporate that. So he had a patchwork of scholarly views, but they're all the maximally conservative. Now, I would question that methodology.
But which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is he
Chicken.
Is he at Denver Theological Seminary because he is very conservative, sincerely believes that, thinks that's the best intellectual case, therefore ends up at a seminary where he has to believe that? Or does he have to believe that, and that means he's always wedded to
Both. Both ends.
Is there a pressure on him to always be conservative? Yes.
Yes.
Does that override his intellectual integrity? I don't know. Craig
His methodology is one of maximal conservatism. He's had a scholarly critical methodology to always choose the most conservative view.
If you believe that that's where the evidence leads, then yes. I don't know what's going on.
Why has he got this methodology? Because, partly because his seminary requires him to have that view, and it does require.
But what I'm saying is, or he had that methodology, and that's why he went to that seminary.
So this is why, or both, I think.
What I'm saying is, who knows what's going on in the mind of Craig Blomberg?
No, but we do know what's going on in terms of the organisational constraints and what he's permitted to publish as a Denver Seminary scholar, and those are very narrowly
True,
defined.
but we don't know whether that has ever stopped him from coming to a different conclusion, or if he has intellectually always agreed with Denver Theological Seminary, which is quite possible if that's his epistemology, that's his methodology. I'm saying we just don't know. So you're right.
I think it's very questionable. So I think we need to look at other scholars who are not constrained by their employer to produce certain kinds of work.
There is another option open to him, him,
Oh, yes.
which is if on particular verse, if he disagrees with the maximal conservative view, he could just not talk about that verse and go on to talk about another verse.
Unless
It's
you
there.
want to comment
No, I agree.
on it.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He always chooses the most
No,
conservative
we don't know
option.
that. We don't know if he's not.
No, I
talking
do, because you can
deliberately.
see it in the book. If you go through all the arguments, you can predict. I can predict on any given discussion, he will always pick the most conservative.
No, but
view.
you don't know that he hasn't considered other verses for discussion in that book and then left them out
Gents,
because he
I'm
doesn't
leaving you
agree.
too. I've got a train to catch.
Have you?
I do actually. I've got a family dinner.
Okay, have a lovely time.
There we go. Good
Lovely,
talking to
as
you,
always.
Paul. Thank you. Good
And,
talking to you. Take care.
Have a nice family dinner.
Will do.